We were only there for 24 hours. We got on the streets, passed out tracts, talked to people. 38 people came to a spontaneous church service. 14 people got saved after about an hour and a half presentation of the gospel. We've been requested by the military to bring Bibles for the entire military and to travel to their military bases and preach the Word of God to them. There's opportunities with the police force. There's opportunities in the schools. Thank you. My name is Kory Mears. Currently, I pastor Apple Valley Baptist Church in Wenatchee, Washington. That's my home church. That's where I got saved as a teenager. I spent 23 years of my life as a missionary in the Fiji Islands and the South Pacific, planting churches, doing evangelism and ministry work. It has been my absolute privilege to come here to Zambia and see the work that's being done by Missionary David Rea and his family. And I just want to say that I've seen a lot of mission fields. I've seen a lot of places. I've been with a lot of missionaries. And the work that's going on here in Zambia is breathtaking. The open doors are breathtaking. And Brother Rea has got the right perspective and the right philosophy of missions. And by the grace of God, this ministry is going to do marvelous and wonderful things. Going into the church was such a blessing. Missionary Brother Rea has done something unique in that the way in which he has embraced the young men in the church. In fact, I wondered if he was even the pastor when I walked in there, watching this man lead the service, another one lead the singing, another one do the preaching, the outreaches that have been organized by the young people. At this point, Brother Rea is simply facilitating the work that is going on and training the men. Solid Rock Baptist Church is going to do absolutely amazing things. We take these young men out on the streets with us, and even some of the young ladies. It was absolutely amazing to watch them skillfully take the Word of God and share the gospel. And even when hard questions were asked, they were ready with biblical, scriptural answers. In fact, I would take these young Zambian men that are between 14, 18, 19, 17 years old, and I would put them up next to almost anybody in America. It's just unbelievable. They have a hunger for God, a hunger for the gospel. The area, though, that is really lacking here, when Jesus said the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. The harvest isn't plenteous everywhere at the same time, but it appears that at different times God moves in different countries. And when you walk into Zambia, the fruit is ripe for the picking. I mean, person after person, day after day, everywhere we went, there were people waiting to hear, wishing that you would spend more time with them. As we traveled to the western province of the town of Mangu, because of one man who got saved in the capital city, began to share his testimony with his family back in the province. We did a 20-hour round trip. We were only there for 24 hours, a little more than 24 hours. We got on the streets, passed out tracts, talked to people. 38 people came to a spontaneous church service. 14 people got saved after about an hour and a half presentation of the gospel. 14 of them got saved. Another 4 got saved the night before. And then they asked us, where do we go to church on Sunday? And I said, we didn't come to start a church. We just came to share the gospel. And they said, how can we go back to these churches that didn't teach us the gospel? So this group of people is already meeting together. There's no pastor. There's no missionary there. They're assembling together and saying, please send somebody. Literally, in Zambia, the fruit is ripe for the harvesting. But it took us $1,000 and a team to get over there. So in order for Brother Rea to be able to expand to all these open doors, he needs more support to be able to facilitate the travel between locations. The second thing that is absolutely necessary is more laborers. We got here, Brother Rea is doing all he can do, as we traditionally now send a family by themselves. And there's only so much one man can do. But when we brought some extra laborers around him, we were able to come alongside the ministry that he had and help facilitate its expansion. In essence, we gave him more hands and more legs to do the work. This is a country that is ripe for the harvest. But if we don't reap the harvest, their blood will be on our hands. And I promise you this, Zambia is full of charlatan preachers. All kinds of false preachers, false prophets having crusades all across this country, and they're taking advantage of the hunger and despair of the people, and they're selling them a false gospel, prosperity gospel, deliverance and healing, And all they do is take these poor Zambians' money and don't give them the truth. So while the doors are open, we need to support the men like Brother Rea that are here on the ground, and we need to send more laborers to this country. And so I want to encourage you to get behind this ministry in those two ways. Because of the open doors in Zambia, there's one more need. Brother Rea desperately needs a different vehicle. We traveled out to the western province to a city called Mongu. It was a 10-hour drive, and the last 3 hours of that drive were absolutely treacherous. The potholes were so big I thought I was driving on the moon. And we had to rent a four-wheel drive Hilux vehicle in order to get there. The vehicle that Brother Rea has, we would have driven it and left it there. These are some of the most dangerous roads. We're trying to facilitate a container full of Bibles, a container full of John and Romans. We've been requested by the military to bring Bibles for the entire military and to travel to their military bases and preach the Word of God to them. There's opportunities with the police force, there's opportunities in the schools. But in order to go to these places, Brother Rea's got to have a four-wheel drive vehicle, and he's got to have a truck big enough that he can carry this cargo from place to place. And I'd really encourage you, if you could give a special offering to help get a vehicle. We're going to do what we can, but if we could get some more churches to get this need, probably about $25,000 to get a decent vehicle is the minimum that would be required for that. Well, I can say what an amazing 3 weeks that we've had in Zambia. We arrived 3 weeks ago, and today we're getting ready to fly out. I want to say what an absolutely amazing time we've had here in Zambia. The first thing that I noticed when we arrived in Zambia is how absolutely hungry people are here for the gospel. From the very first day that our team set out on the streets to do evangelism, we were so surprised that as we got out and started handing out tracts, while we're handing out a tract to one person, 2 or 3 other people come up and ask us for a tract, and then they'll say to us, when you get done talking with them, come to me. I've never been to a place in the world where the people were so hungry and almost demanding that you would stop and talk with them about the gospel. And we had such great opportunities everywhere we went, whether we were downtown in the city, whether we were in a rural market, whether we were in a very rural town out in the province. Every single place we went, people were hungry to hear the Word of God. And by the grace of God, we were able to share the gospel and see a number of people saved and come to the Lord. And you know, there are some parts of the world where you have to work hard. You're breaking up fallow ground. You're having to deal with people who don't even know the Bible is the Word of God or something of that nature. But Zambians believe the Bible. They believe in Jesus. They believe in the basic historical accounts of the Bible. But when you ask them about their salvation, out of the hundreds of people that our team talked to, we may have found 2 or 3 people that understood the gospel. The rest of them believe that salvation is by works or by keeping the law. And when we open Bible verses like Ephesians 2, 8, and 9 to basically say you're saved by grace through faith, not of works, that phrase, not of works, it hits them right between the eyeballs, and they look at you kind of dumbfounded. And then we say to them, if you're not saved by works, then what are you saved by? And they just stare at you. And then we begin to preach Jesus Christ and His redemption, His payment on the cross. And as we explain it to them carefully and in detail, we would get done and they would say to me, so what do we do? What's the procedure? What do I have to do? And then of course we just lead them to Christ. It was absolutely amazing. And the church here, Solid Rock Baptist Church, that was established by Missionary David Rea, what an absolute blessing it was to be in this church. Especially the men and the young men especially that are there, what a devotion to God I found in them. After we finished church, we would come over to Brother Rea's house, and then for another 2 or 3 hours, these young men would sit around and just ask question after question after question, deep questions of the Bible. You can tell that these young men are in the scriptures by the questions that they ask you. And there is a group of young men in this church that are absolutely dedicated to the truth of the Bible and to evangelism.